a lot of these. I primarily work on the sales desk, but um, just to kind of give you some background on me, I've been a licensed agent for 15 years and sold as an independent agent out in the field, and then joined Foresters about 6 years ago when I saw an opening, and I work on the sales desk. So most of the time, I'm taking calls from agents when they got questions about products or pricing, whatever it might be. I'm sure you guys have probably called in at some point to it. You may have even talked to me, but that's what I do. So I'll kind of run through a little bit of who Foresters is, why you would sell Foresters, and then I'll kind of talk a little bit about certainly all about the plan, right? Different ways you can sell it, and then if anybody has any questions, you can just fire them away when we're done or whenever. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. So. Um, But why Foresters? So Foresters is a fraternal, meaning we're a not-for-profit. So we give back all our profits back to our members, and they become members when you sell them a life insurance policy. So you'll hear a lot about us talk about common bonds, how we give back, how we do community things. And, when you're selling this product, you don't have to just talk about when you're going to die. You can talk about all sorts of other stuff. So people become members when they buy a plan. You can't buy membership or be a part of it unless you're either the spouse of an insured or a child under the age of 24 of the insured, or you have insurance with us. Then you become a member. So pretty simple. There's a bunch of different member benefits, and I won't go through all of them. I can certainly field any questions anyone might have, but these are kind of the ones that we hear a lot about. The scholarships, we give out 300 scholarships every year to kids going to college. And that can be real good when you're talking to seniors. Maybe they have a fixed income, they don't have a lot they can offer their families until they die. Even then, it's not a lot, but they can talk about scholarships. Their grandkids can apply for a scholarship with us. They're currently 2,500 bucks a year. 300 scholarships help them pay for school just because mom, dad, grandma, or grandpa has life insurance with us. So definitely a popular one to talk about along with some of the other ones here. We do also have all this stuff in Spanish as well. I can't tell you what any of that says, but we have supplies that you can order on the products and marketing pieces in Spanish. And you would see that right on EasyBiz at the top there where it says Espanol, or you can search for product and marketing material, other languages. Another benefit that is really popular with our file expense is our diabetes member benefit. So it's basically a way that diabetics can either buy a box of supplies as needed or get set up on a subscription, maybe every 90 days, where they get, 100 test strips or 100 needles sent out to them. And it's a way that they can get a discount on their supplies as well as a free blood glucose monitor. So it certainly can help you sell, this product as you're talking about. I mean, I don't know. I got a friend who spends a couple $100 a month on supplies. So if you can go in and say, hey, by the way, we can save you, somewhere between $50 to $70 on your supplies, just because you're a member of Foresters, you can now use that savings to help pay for your final expense. Kind of killed two birds with one stone. It's a great way to talk about why Foresters versus the competition and what it can do for them, in addition to having that life insurance in place. And then LawAssure, I want to talk a little bit about as well. That's something that where people can get a free will, healthcare directive, or power of attorney. That's something they would do on the member side of the portal. But it's a great benefit to talk about too. Is wills can easily cost $1,000, just in attorney fees. So a way that now you can go in and get that done for no cost. And, most of the people that you're going to be meeting with on final expense, they don't have this stuff taken care of. So if they can get a free will or that healthcare directive, or as they get older, that power of attorney, that can be a big benefit to them. And it's something they can do just because they have life insurance with Foresters. So, you know, the last stat that I've seen shows that 68% of people don't have a will. So, and it's probably even higher of the people you're meeting with. But again, a great, what we're talking about here really is saying, hey, look, if you're going to buy $10,000 with the life insurance, you can buy it from Company A or you can get it from Foresters. And in addition to having a death benefit waiting for you when you die, also have access to all these extra things you can use while you're still living that can help your family out and just put you in a better spot financially. So definitely talk about that. It's pretty simple for them once they become members. They would hop on the member site. They just click on Law Assure, and then it kind of walks them right through the plan. Oops, walks them right through how to set that up. It's an intuitive program. So as they answer questions, it will now expand on what they need done. And then once it's all done, they can save it. And then based on their state regulations, maybe they need to get it notarized or not. But that's how they would do it. So real simple. But all of that starts with getting a plan. So the plan rate, that's our final expense senior product. It's ages, 50 to 85. And certainly there's all sorts of different reasons, why you would sell a final expense, which I'm sure you guys all know about. So I don't have to go too in depth about that, but um, you know, uh, it's an affordable plan really to help pay for your final expenses. And there's no exam, so it's always going to be simplified issue. We just look at how they answer the questions. We do look at their MIB report, and then we look at their drug history report. And then from there, it's either pass or fail. Never would we do an exam. From time to time, you may run into a situation where you might need to get or you could get a letter from a doctor stating why they take a certain drug for this condition and not something more serious. And we will look at that, and we might then bump them maybe from one category to a higher category if it makes sense. But basically, we have three different levels of the plan, right? So there's your preferred, which is going to be basically you can answer no to all the questions, and it's going to be day one coverage up to 35,000 level death benefit. We have the standard plan, which is also day one coverage, and that's going to be up to 20,000. And that's going to be more for, obviously height and weight can put you into different categories, but standard is more like if people have COPD or emphysema and they're not on oxygen, or they have a liver or kidney disease or disorder, but they don't take dialysis, or they have Parkinson's. Things like that would put them into a standard category. Day one up to 20,000. And then we have the basic plan, which is our modified plan. So that's more for people that have cancer in the last 3 years, or they have maybe diabetic complications like neuropathy or retinopathy, or they had a heart attack or stroke in the last 12 months. Then they can still get coverage. It would have a 2-year wait, in which case, we would send them all their money back plus 10% interest. So common, in the industry for that. They all go to age 85 except for the basic, would stop them at age 80. So if they're over age 80, they have to qualify for standard or preferred. But they all start at $5,000. And like I said, go up to 35 for preferred, 20,000 standard, and then 15,000 for basic coverage. And there's some optional riders that you can add. Some automatically will just be added to it based on the state you're in. So there are some variations where some states might not have all these riders. But as far as like the accelerated death benefit rider, your living benefits, that's going to be available if they're standard or preferred. And that's going to be just for terminal illness. So you won't see a chronic or critical on here because a lot of people that have chronic conditions can still get covered on the plan right day one. So there's a common carrier accidental death rider, which is something that would double the death benefit on top of the death benefit should they die on some type of common carrier where they're a fare paying passenger and that has a regular scheduled route. So not taxis or Ubers, but like planes, trains, buses. That's just something up to age 85. If they were to take a trip to Florida, crash, and everyone perishes, then in addition to their life insurance, they could also get double that for that common carrier benefit rider. And the family health benefit rider is something that's more or less up to $5,000 can basically be reimbursed to them for like hospital costs if they ended up taking an ambulance ride, went to the emergency room, or spent some time in the hospital due to a natural disaster. It doesn't take anything away from the death benefit. It's just something where, if they spent 5 days in the hospital, it would pay $100 a day to them that they can use to help, pay for some of the bills maybe they had or missing work or whatever it is. The only optional rider would be the accidental death rider that is available up to age 80. So a lot of accidental death, will stop at age 70 or 75, or you can't add it after age 60. This one, you can add it all the way up to age 80. And the unique part of this accidental death is it stays on there forever. So it doesn't go away. So if somebody bought it when they were 60 years old and they added the accidental death for another, 35,000, it's only a few dollars more. But the nice thing is that stays on there all the way until death do us part. So, if they're 90 years old, they still have that accidental death coverage. And, as I'm sure as they get older, they're more susceptible to injuries or accidents that can cause them to just not be strong enough to recover. So if they were to die within 180 days of that accident, then they would have that additional protection in place for them. So as far as underwriting and submitting it to us, like I said, we do the MIB and and the prescription history. And that's actually done right at the time you're doing the application. So you would complete an application. We then use a company called Aptical, who would do a third-party personal health history interview. It's not basically what they're doing is they're just going to verify who the person is, verify their ID, and then they're going to just go through the 3 sections of questions to make sure they answered them one way or the other. While they're doing that, that's when they're pulling the MIB and the prescription, and they would let you know then if you can apply for preferred, standard, or basic based on everything kind of lining up with what the application and what those drug reports would indicate. So once it gets issued, you can't make any changes to it. There is actually a 90-day change rule where in the first 90 days they can add or decrease the amount without having to re-go through everything. But after 90 days, that's their plan. And if they, were a tobacco user now, and in 6 months they quit, a year later they say, now I want to get non-tobacco rates, you'd have to do a new plan on this product only. So couple things that they have to be eligible. So they do need to have a social security number. They do need to be able to, speak and answer questions, be cognitive. And, there's a couple of different versions to this, which I'll get into in a second. If they are hearing impaired, they can use a TTY or VRS. And then they have to be able to answer no to the first 6 questions. So any yes would be a decline. And I'll cover that here in a second as well. and then they just need some type of government ID. So, but here's the first 6 questions. And basically, any yes answers here, it would say do not, apply. You would be declined. And it's for pretty much all the main ones. If you're in a hospital or a nursing facility, we're not going to accept you on this product. If you've used oxygen in the last 12 months, unless you used it for sleep apnea, we won't accept it. If you're on dialysis or HIV or you have cancer or heart failure, any of those, we're just not going to accept it. Pretty basic in the industry, I think. But if you answer no to all those, then you move on to the next 5 questions. And these are the ones that if they were to answer yes to any of these, it would put them into the modified plan. So this, like I said, would be something like the stroke in the last 12 months, angina, if they've got alcohol or drug abuse or aneurysm that hasn't been repaired, things like that is probably the most common ones that you'd see in this, or diabetic complications. But if these have all been no, the first 6 were all no, then you move to the last set of questions. And this is the standard category. So if they were to have no's up until this time, and now you get a yes answer, it doesn't matter if you get 1, 2, or 8. It's any of those boxes that are yes, that would put you into a standard category. And of course, if they're all no's, well, then they'd be eligible for preferred, assuming their drug history and MIB history kind of lines up with this as well. So the process is you would do an application, couple different versions, and I'll probably jump through a few slides here, but basically, if you're going to be doing a face-to-face presentation, you would be doing a paper application, and you would complete the application in its entirety. You would then pick up the phone, call Aptical, and Aptical's open, I always say all the time, but they're open till 2 in the morning Eastern time, Monday through Friday, and they open at 8:30 in the morning, so pretty much all day. And then on weekends they're 10 to 10, so you should be able to reach them at any point. They're closed on like 5 major holidays, and that's it. But yeah, you'll be present doing the paper application. You'll call them up, give them some basic information about you, the agent. You do need to have a writing number with us in order to do this PHHI. And then you hand the phone over to the customer or put them on speakerphone, and they'll complete the rest of the interview. They will do these interviews in English, Spanish, or French, and that's it. No exceptions on that. But so that's kind of the paper version. When they're done, it takes about 6, 7, 8 minutes maybe to do that interview. They would give you a reference number that you put on the producer report that lets us know that you did it, and the PHHI, and then we would see that when everything gets submitted to us. And then, as far as billing goes, you can either have it go direct bill if they want to pay quarterly or semi-annually or annually. We do not accept a money order or credit card for the first payment. It would have to be through either a bank draft or a personal check or a neighbor's check or a family member's check, anything. It just can't be a money order, at least not the first one. So you can go out 45 days for the first billing. So when you're sitting down with them, you can push it out as far as 45 days go. Otherwise, you can choose, a specific day of the month between the 1st and the 28th, or you can choose like the 3rd Wednesday of every month. So that's an option. And then when you submit the paper one, you just fax it into us. You can mail it into us, or you can upload it through SecureDocs, which is a link on our agent site that you can go on, scan it, and upload it securely directly into our system. And we usually then pull those or get those put in the system within 24 hours. Regardless, though, of whether or not you sell the application after the interview or not, if, like if you do an application and something pops up and they say, oh, yeah, you're right, I forgot to tell you I have heart failure, and we decline them on that health industry interview, you still need to send the application in to us so that we have a copy of it on file with their signature that says that we were able to look at their MIB and their drug history. And that's, I mention that because if you don't, if you just you go to sell one, it doesn't work out, and you just shred it when you get home, at some point you're going to get a letter from us saying, hey, we need this application, and if you can't get it to us by this day, we're going to have to revoke your privilege to be able to sell it that way. And I have had agents call in and they have to drive back out to the customer's house and say, I know we didn't do this, but can you just sign this so we had your authorization to be able to do it? So just a little added work you can take off if you just kind of remember that one part of it. We have obviously marketing, pieces for our products as well. I know a lot of times, final expense agents, you might say, hey, how much can you afford? Did you have a certain amount in mind? And you might just cater it to that way. If you wanted to get into something where you could say, here's all the different things you might need when we start trying to plan how much insurance you want. This is just kind of something to spark that mind thinking about, maybe I do need to leave some money for medical bills, or, for a fancy casket or whatever they might want, just designed to get them thinking about, like, hey, what exactly do I want or expect, when I die? So there's those pieces, and these pieces are all available to order from us, where we just ship them out to you. We don't charge for them. Or there's pieces you can just attach to emails or print off. Some you can actually customize and then either email or print off. So there's plenty of tools to help you get out there and present your product and present the company. Big thing, as I'm sure you guys all know, is field underwriting. We don't have a risk assessment line for PlanRight. We do have the sales desk, and then we have a medical reference guide. And that medical reference guide is going to show you the height and weights. It's going to show you how we handle people that are diabetics if they take other medications like a gabapentin or something for neuropathy or nephropathy. And then also it'll say, like, if they take a bunch of blood pressure meds, if they're taking ones that might indicate they have a more serious problem than just blood pressure. There's a list in there, and then there's, about 3-4 pages. It'll go through all the conditions that we're concerned with, and if it's not in there, then typically we're not concerned about it. And then it's got about 20 pages of drugs, and it doesn't have all of them in there, but those drugs say, hey, if you take this drug for this condition, it's handled this way, or if it's for this condition, it's handled that way. And there's a part on the application if somebody does take gabapentin, for example, but they take it for epilepsy or nerve pain in their back from an accident, not their diabetes. There's a spot called, dual usage medications, where you can state your case to the underwriting team that, hey, we think this one should go preferred because they take gabapentin for this and they don't have neuropathy. We don't think it should be basic. And then you can send it in, underwriting will review it, and then they will go ahead, listen to the tape and look at, or the recording, and then look at the history of it. And then about half the time, I think, if it makes sense, they bump those up to a better rating class. And but it's important to know that, we do take calls for risk assessment on the sales desk, and some agents will call in and say, hey, I got 10 meds, do you want me to start with those? And really it's like, well, what do they take them for? We can kind of get a better understanding of how it's going to be viewed. But what we see in the book is what we're going to tell you. So the book is something that I would bring with me or have nearby as I'm selling this, at least until you kind of understand how we're going to view certain things. And that's pretty much it. So that's my extension and Emery's. So we have Emery is kind of a hybrid wholesaler. So if you call the sales desk, you won't get him, but if you put his